Now, when people discuss the term generational wealth, especially right here on Wall Street, usually it refers to financial assets passed on from one generation of a family to another. Assets that can include cash, stocks, bonds, real estate, family businesses. But perhaps there is even more to generational wealth. A generational wealth just beyond money. A generational wealth that's all about family success. Perhaps you need some convincing, and that's where this gentleman comes in, Chukky Okobi. Some of you know him from his NFL playing days, a Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers back in 2005, and now the founder of Ali Family Advisory, a man on a mission to guide high net worth individuals and their families to heal generational trauma, to find their family's unique culture and give them that conviction that the mindset and values that lead to their monetary wealth are maintained and fostered across future generations. But don't take it from me. Here's Chukky Okobi himself describing the Ali Family Advisor.
Ali is a Hawaiian word that they used to describe the nobles in ancient Hawaii, essentially like the Hawaiian royal family before Westernization. And they were upheld by the people in the community and typically were recognized as Ali based on their family lineage. So what Ali Family Advisory does now is works with what I call first generation millionaires, today's modern day elite, people held up in high esteem by society, which includes mainly the people I work with are professional athletes, entertainers, first generation wealthy. It's helping them to really cultivate the mindset, the family values, and the passion, the emotional discipline that led to their wealth at this generation, and making sure that these first generation millionaires remain millionaires well beyond their own years, and that they're actually creating generational wealth for their family now.
Now, Ali is indeed a unique name for a company. It's Hawaiian, and quite frankly, it must have a significant meaning behind it if it's being used as the name for the company. So I had to ask Chukky, what's the significance behind using the term Ali? And here was his answer.
Well, a lot of it comes down to actually some of the things that I dealt with when I was done playing football. I went through a very difficult time in the first decade out of the NFL, and it wasn't until I connected with my coach. Now, my coach, he's from Hawaii. I love this guy. My coach, he was always talking about his mentor, his uncle, and what he used to say in the native Hawaiian language. Aohe pauko ike ko halau, which translates to realize not all wisdom comes from your school. There's wisdom all around us if you quiet down and open up your mind. When you change the way you look at things, things you look at start to change. And I really turned my life around that first conversation I had with my coach. His name is Dr. Matt James, and he really put things into perspective for me and helped me to turn my life around, recognizing the value that I created in becoming a professional athlete, helping me to recover, what I believed I lost when I was done playing sports. And I realized that now it's the value of how I got to the NFL that I really am focused on passing down to my children, and I want to help other modern day elite, whether they be a rapper or a basketball player or a hockey player or a singer like Taylor Swift. These are all modern day elite. We want to make sure that they pass down what I call the wealth beyond money to future generations so that their legacy can be maintained throughout American history and world history, really.
Now, the transition from the gridiron to leading an advisory firm and being a speaker is an interesting one. Over time, news headlines have been inundated about stories of athletes struggling to transition when the sports career comes to a close. There are some success stories out there, but there's also a lot of stories of struggle and failure. For Chukky, I had to ask him a personal question. How did his own transitional struggle away from the gridiron, if at all, turn him into the man and advisor he is right now?
I had invested into a bunch of businesses. My thought process when I first started playing football was to create generational wealth. And after I lost that identity of a football player, because remember, you start playing football when I started playing football in high school, but I started playing sports very young, about 5 or 6 years old. And all of a sudden, you're not even 30 years old, and you get fired from a job that you didn't do anything wrong. And you don't really know who you are anymore because you sacrificed everything just to get to that level. And so recognizing that I wanted to feel like that again. I wanted to feel empowered the same way I did when I was looking towards the NFL instead of looking back at it. That's where it really all comes from, is understanding that for professional athletes, there's a lot of great stories out there. You know, this person's getting this many millions of dollars, or seeing guys on commercials. At the same time, it's important to recognize your value as a human being is not tied to the money. It's not tied to the number of followers you have on Instagram. It's not tied to whatever level of popularity. It's not tied to how many, girls you're able to get at the club. It's not tied to any of that. It's what makes you you. Because whatever that is, when you look at the professional athletes, you're talking about 1% of the 1%. You're a special human being because the sports are still played by human beings and you just happen to be one. But what makes you special, that's what the ancient Hawaiians recognized in those that they called ali'i.
So yes, Chukky Okobi is out there making a difference, sharing ancient wisdom with modern application. But the real question, feedback. How has the feedback been for the ali'i Family Advisory? For that answer, we go right back to Chukky.
The feedback, it's been good. It's been good. I've helped a lot of people to gain a new perspective on where they're at in their life, to really redefine their story, not so much for other people to know, but the story they're telling themselves, about themselves. I always look at it like this. When I was a kid, one of my favorite games to play was make-believe. And, we all play make-believe as kids. We have children, they play make-believe all the time. The way the game is played is simple. I tell stories to myself about myself. And back then when I used to play make-believe, all those stories were empowering. Remember, I'm a princess, I'm a superhero, I'm a football player. But then all of a sudden, as adults, perhaps you had an opportunity to play pro sports and now you're not. And the story changes. And all of a sudden you find yourself telling yourself stories that begin with language like, I can't, I'm not, I just don't want. But think about it. Would your 5-year-old kid tell that story playing make-believe? Would he choose that story? Well, we're all somebody's kids, so why are we choosing that now? And that's what it really comes down to, is if you were able to find this level of success, whether it be academically, whether it be as a YouTuber, whether it be as an NBA player, you're still that 5-year-old kid who was telling himself that story about himself. And we just got to get back to that.
And finally, the ali'i Family Advisory is hitting the ground and running, literally, but in the long term, I had to ask Chukky, what's the goal of the brand? Where does he see the ali'i Family Advisory? And let's say the next 5 years. Here's Chukky with that answer.
Well, 5 years from now, I'm hoping to bring this message of ali'i Family Advisory to more professional sports organizations. I'm working with Lassane Basquiat, who's a sister and CEO of the Jean-Michel Basquiat, family estate, as well as working with Dr. Dan Young, who created the Alternate Financial Institute at the Wharton School of Business, University of Pennsylvania. And together, what we want to do is bring this insight to more professional athletes so that we can begin to create things like funds where we can make sure that these first-generation millionaires remain millionaires forever. And hopefully in 5 years, we would have at least hit 15, 20 U.S. cities and create funds for professional athletes in these cities to make sure that they never have any concerns about their ability to create a difference in the world, whether they're playing their sport or not.